Good morning, good morning. We're going to go into an angel book today. We are actually going to be talking about cherubs today. Cherubim or cherubs are all like the popular deception of them as plump little babies with wings. They are powerful and holy beings. The first time the Bible mentions cherubs is in Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, verse 24. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubs, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. When Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden because of the rebellion against God, they mentioned the cherubs. The origin of the name cherubim is unknown, but the angels are associated with God. In 7 different places in the Bible, we read that our great Lord is the God who dwells between the cherubs. And that'd be 1 Samuel chapter 4, verse 4. So the people sent to Shiloh that they might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims, and the 2 sons of Leah, Hophni, and Peninnah were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And then 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 2. And David rose and went with all the people that were with him from Bala of Judah to bring up from thence the ark of God, whose name is called by the name of the Lord of hosts, that dwelleth between the cherubims. And then 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 15. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord God of Israel, which dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone of all the kingdoms of the earth, thou hast made heaven and earth. And then 1 Chronicles 13, verse 6. And David went up and all Israel to Baalah, that is to Kirjathjearim, which belonged to Judah, to bring up thence the ark of God the Lord, that dwelleth between the cherubims, whose name is called on it. And then Psalm 8. Psalm 80, verse 1. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwell between the cherubims, shine forth. And then Psalm 99, verse 1. The Lord reigns, let the people tremble. He sits between the cherubs, let the earth be moved. And then in Isaiah 37, O Lord of God of hosts, God of Israel, that dwelleth between the cherubims, thou art thy God, even thou alone of all the kingdoms of the earth, thou hast made heaven and earth. And then in 2 Samuel 22, verse 11, and he rode upon a cherub and did fly, and he was seen upon the wings of the wind. David said that when God answered his prayer and came to his rescue. And then you have Psalm 18. Psalm 18:10. We are just going to ignore this till this case is sticking in the video. You don't see this. 18 verse 10. And he rode upon a cherub and did fly. He did fly upon the wings of the wind. Just give me a second. I do have a little bit of a visitor apparently on the desk. When God gave Moses the plans for the Ark of the Covenant or Ark of Testimony in the tabernacle, he instructed Moses to place replicas of 2 cherubs on each end of the mercy seat, upon which the blood anointment would be sprinkled. And you will find that in Exodus 25. You might see a cat in the screen in a moment because he's determined to get in my way, and there's a cat. Just hold on a second. We're going to go move around a little bit because apparently there's a cat that wants to join. Exodus chapter 25. Verse 17 to 22. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth therefore. Am I on the right page? Yep, right. And thou shalt make 2 cherubs of gold, of beam work shall thou make of them, and 2 ends of the mercy seat. And make 1 cherub on one end, and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubs on the 2 ends therefore. And the cherubs shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and the faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the face of the cherubs be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubs which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. And then God's presence dwelt between the cherubs and the tabernacle, and from that place he spoke to Moses. And then you find that in Numbers. Okay, give me a minute. Kind of hard. Numbers chapter 7, verse 89. And when Moses was gone into the tabernacle of the congregation to speak with him, then he heard the voice of one speaking unto him from off the mercy seat that was upon the ark of testimony, from between the 2 cherubs, and he spoke unto him. And the Bible says that curtains in the veil in the tabernacle were decorated with cherubs, which is found in Exodus 26. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubs of cunning work shalt thou make them. And then verse 31. And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen and cunning work, with cherubs shall it be made. And then chapter 36. Verse 8, and every wise-hearted man among them that wrought the work of the tabernacle made 10 curtains of fine twined linen in blue and purple and scarlet, with cherubs of cunning work made he them. And then 35, and he made a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, with cherubs made he it of cunning work. When Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, he decorated with elaborate and intelligent carvings and engraving sculptures of cherubs, and he had the temple curtain embroidered with cherubs. You can find that in 1 King. Kings chapter 6. Can you not walk me with your tail? Chapter 6, verse 22 to 35. And the whole house he overlaid with gold until he had finished all the house, also the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold, and within the oracle he made 2 cherubs of olive tree, each 10 cubits high, and 5 cubits was one ring of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other ring of the cherub. From the uttermost part of one ring unto the uttermost part of the other were 10 cubits. And the other cherub was 10 cubits, both the cherubs were of one measure and one size. The height of the one cherub was 10 cubits, and so it was of the other cherub. And he set the cherubs within the inner house, and they stretched forth the rings of the cherub. For the rings of one touched the one wall, and the other ring of the other cherub touched the other wall, and the rings touched one another in the midst of the house. And he overlaid the cherubs with gold, and he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figurines of cherubs and palm trees and open flowers within and without. And the floor of the house he overlaid with gold within and without. And for the entering of the oracle he made doors of olive tree. The lintel and the side posts were the 5th part of the wall. The 2 doors also were of olive trees, and he carved upon them carvings of cherubs and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubs and upon the palm trees. So he also made for the door of the temple post of olive tree, the 4th part of the wall. And the 2 doors were of fir tree. The 2 leaves of one door were folding, and the other 2 leaves of the other door were folding. And he carved therein cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and covered them with gold fitted upon the carved work. And then in chapter 7, verse 29, and on the borders that were between the ledges were lions, ox, and cherubs, and upon the ledges was a base above, and beneath the lions and ox were certain dishes made of thin work. And then verse 36, for on the place of the ledges, therefore, and on the borders therefore, he graved cherubs, lions, and palm trees, according to the preparation of every one, in additions around about. And then in 2 Chronicles, chapter 3, verse 7, he overlaid also the beams, the posts, and walls, therefore, and the doors, therefore, with gold engraved cherubs on the walls. And then 10 through 14. And in the most holy house he made 2 cherubs of image work and overlaid them with gold. And the wings of the cherubs were 20 cubits long. One wing of the one cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house. And the other wing was likewise 5 cubits, reaching to the wings of the other cherub. And one wing of the other cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house. And the other wing was 5 cubits also, joined into the ring of the other cherub. The wings of these cherubs spread themselves forth 20 cubits, and they stood on their feet, and their faces were inward. And he made a wall of veil, blue and purple and crimson and fine linen, and wrought cherubims thereon. And then in Zion, Babylon, Ezekiel saw a vision of the future temple, and it contained rich carvings of cherubs. You find that in Ezekiel. Gotta give me a minute. Ezekiel 41, verse 18 to 20. And it was made with cherubs and palm trees. So a palm tree was between a cherub and a cherub, and every cherub had 2 faces. So that the face of a man was toward the palm tree on one side, and the face of a young lion toward the palm tree on the other side, was made through all the house round about. From the ground unto above the door were cherubs and palm trees made, and on the wall of the temple. And then in verse 25, and there were made on them, on the doors of the temple, cherubs and palm trees like as were made upon the walls, and there were 6 planks upon the face of the porch without. Ezekiel mentioned them in chapter 1 of his books, but he tries them in detail in chapter 10, which is in Ezekiel chapter 10. Verse 1 through 21. Then I looked, and behold, in the firmament that was above the head of the cherub, there appeared over them as a row of sapphire stone, as appearance of the likeness of a throne. And he spoke unto the man clothed with linen, and said, Go in between the wheels, even under the cherub, and fill thy hand with coals of fire from before between the cherubs, and shatter them over the sea within my sight. Now the cherubs stood on the right side of the house, and when the man went in, the cloud filled the inner court. Then the glory of the Lord went up from the cherub, and stood over the threshold of the house. And the house was filled with a cloud, and the court was full of brightness of the Lord's glory. And the sound of the cherub's wings was heard, even to the outer court, as the voice of the Almighty God when he speaketh. And it came to pass that when he had commanded the man clothed with linen, saying, Take fire from between the wheels, from between the cherubs, then he went in and stood beside the wheels. And one cherub stretched forth his hand from between the cherubs unto a fire that was between the cherubs, and took therefore and put it into the hands of him that was clothed with linen, who took it and went out. And there appeared in the cherubs the form of a man's hand under the ring. And when I looked, behold, the 4 wheels by the cherubs, one wheel by one cherub, and another wheel by another cherub. And the appearance of the wheels was the color of a beryl stone. And as for their appearance, they were 4, had one likeness, as if a wheel had been in the midst of a wheel. When they went upon their 4 sides. They turned not as they went, but to the place whither the head they looked, they followed it. They turned as they went. And their whole body, and their backs, and their hands, and their wings, and the wheels were full of eyes round about, even the wheels that their forehead. And as for the wheels, it was cried unto them in my hearing, O the wheel. And every one had 4 faces. The first face was the face of a cherub, the second face was the face of a man, and the third the face of a lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. And the cherubs were lifted up, this is the living creature I saw by the river of cherubim. And when the cherubs went, the wheels went by them, and when the cherubs lifted up their wings to mount up from the earth, the same wheels also turned, not from beside them. When they stirred the earth, these stirred, those stirred, and when they were lifted up, these lifted up themselves also, for the spirit of the living creatures was in them. Then the glory of the Lord departed from off the threshold of the house, and stood over the cherubs. And then the cherubs lifted up their wings, and mounted up from the earth in my sight when they went out. The wheels also were beside them, and every one stood at the door of the east gate of the Lord's house, and the glory of the God of Israel was over them above. This is the living creature that I saw under the God of Israel by the river of cherub, and I knew that they were the cherubs. Every one had 4 faces apiece, and every one 4 wings, and the likeness of the hands of the man who was under their wings. It's just imagine these beings connected with God's presence, purity and glorified, that was reflected the mystery, majesty of the Lord. But there is a sober note related to cherubs. Lucifer was apparently a cherub before he fell and became Satan. In Ezekiel 28, let's go check out Ezekiel 28. In Ezekiel 28, the prophet probably referred to the devil when he said this in verse 14. Thou art this anointed cherub that cometh and hast set thee, so thou waste upon the holy mountain of God, thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. There's some weird noises. Because of Luzer's sin, God said in verse 16, by the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I shall cast thee as a profane out of the mountains of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. It's almost unimaginable to think of how low Satan fell when he succumbed to pride, rebelled against God, and was cast out of heaven. He went from being a cherub to a dragon, and you find that in Revelation 20. Revelation chapter 20, verse 2. And he laid a hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Who will be cast into the fire and brimstone, and you find that in verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And that's a bad fall right there. This is like this reminder is a great reminder to us of the consequences of sin. Even as a cherub can have an end. It's a reminder of Christ's great sacrifice on our behalf that restores us to the very presence of God that we have never sinned. And you'll find we're going to go into Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 16. For verily he took not on him the nature of angel, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. And that will be it for today. And then tomorrow we are going to talk about Seraphim. And I will be back probably about 5-ish to do my other reading today. But you all have a great day today on Sunday. And just get what you need to get done. And stay safe if you're out on the road, and stay dry. And I will be back later. As you can see.